Right. Well, we wait. I'm remembering back to my first regional coalition meeting. We have some guests today who you'll get to know, but wondering if folks, if you remember how to change your Zoom name, if you would add your region to your name, if you can, after your name, just for folks to be able to follow along. Give it another minute for folks to join us. Welcome, everyone. We'll give it another minute. Wait for a few more regions to join us. We have some first timers here today, so I'm asking if folks remember how to change your display name. If you wouldn't mind adding your region to your name, or the multi in the case of you, Sarah, and others, I guess the multiple regions maybe you support, or whatever you think is helpful for identification. Um, Here, welcome, welcome. Okay, let's give it one more minute and we'll get started. Laughing at Sarah's now display name for all of the regions childcare back office is supporting. Uh,
That's why I'm turning off my camera for a minute to go acquire more caffeine while I listen.
Welcome. See some folks still joining. Want to make sure we have enough time today, so we'll get started here in a second. I know everyone is always waiting to talk. So I want to see. While we wait for folks, is there anything folks want to share? Any wins? Anything in the last few weeks, the last month since we've met that you want to make sure your colleagues know about your wage initiative implementation? Any celebrations to start us off?
Sarah rocks.
Yes, let's give it up for Sarah.
That's funny because I was coming running over so I could come off of mute to say, we're hiring a person. CP Studio has
Yay!
a person starting on July 20th that we're having dedicated to employment verifications and communications for Wage Initiative. Um, and that's a huge win for us because, as I'm sure it is for you all, it's like 99% of the challenge of this work is the sheer amount of people you have to talk to.
Yes, absolutely. Congratulations. That's exciting. Big day. Big only I'm sure you have a countdown going, 13 days till you have that person on board. Anyone else before we kick it off want to share any anecdotes, things that have happened, others you want to celebrate here?
I think we can celebrate Region 4 that I think tomorrow said we put in 242 stipends. So tomorrow you might want to speak to that.
So it wasn't 242 stipends, it was 225. And our and capacity for us is 228. So we're close. Very close.
Still worth a celebration tomorrow. Thanks for sharing, Shanae and Tamara. That's a lot of stipends to get out the door. So appreciate you sharing.
I also wanted to give a shout out to Region 4 because they'd shared the like screen share of their tracking system, and it inspired me to work on our internal tracking systems and make things better. So thanks y'all for having shared that because it inspired some improvements.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much to both Region 2 and Region 4 for sharing last time. And that is great to know when you went through it all, you inspired some other folks.
Hey, can I just who's in the room with me is the person that did all of that work. And come on, Nicole. Look, she's way back in the back of my. But look, they're clapping for you because she was the genius behind all the tracking. Look at you, they got a lot of love. And she came in and said, I don't think we can do this any other way. Here's what I put together. We were like, yes. So thank you, Nicole.
Yes, awesome. Thank you, Nicole. All claps all around. All right. Well, there will be more time to share. As you know, these office hours are yours. We have a little bit more of a structured agenda than sometimes because we have, as you all have gotten in your email, we'll be together next month in person. So that is very exciting. Before we go over both logistics and purpose for the August in-person event, you'll also get to meet some of our new technical assistance partners from Afton Partners, and we will circle back to some TA resources. But before we get into all of that, I wanted to give, not to put Joy on the spot, I'm going to give her a little heads up if she wants to share anything. She may not have anything to share as far as housekeeping, but also wanted to open it up to you all, knowing we're going to talk about the convening, we're going to talk about our new TA partners. Is there anything else that you want to make sure that we cover today, or just a quick question you had about a report or something due, or anything that you wanted to throw out there before we get started? Thanks, Joy. There will still be time. So I just wanted to see, sometimes you have a burning question, you want to get it off your mind before we get started. So let's talk about our August in-person convening quickly. I have a few slides to share with you all. I'm also going to invite, I will kick us off, but I will invite both Liv or Lindsay or anyone else to chime in as well. I am going to attempt to not make you view my whole messy screen really quickly. Um, and I'm going to share, okay, of course, thanks you, a portion of my screen here for you. Can you all see this slide? Cool. I see some head nods, so we'll go with yes. Just as a reminder, so before, if you're like, oh, what is this? Frantically writing this down, you will put in the chat if you didn't get an email. Maybe it's going to your spam or something like that. But we have a lot of registrants, so we have reason to believe many of you have received the email about our Early Educator Wage Initiative in-person convening next month in East Lansing, of course, as a non-Michigander, got to get it right. And we will be coming together on August 26th with a pre-meeting dinner for for those of you that can join us the evening before. Sorry if you can hear my dog. She's very excited that we are getting together here. Glad you get here. So we want to remind you of some of the logistics. In a second, I'll talk to you about what the meeting is, what we're doing. Um, you will get a reminder email this week if you haven't registered about the convening itself, but this is just as a reminder that it is on Wednesday, August 26th. That will be at the Kellogg Hotel and Convention Center to remind you, if you're like me and need a reminder, to book your hotel by July 26th to get that group rate. And that we are asking that you register by Friday, July 24th. We will send out, I say we, I'm giving myself credit for the hard work of Liv and Sable and the other ECIC team members. We'll send out a reminder, so don't worry about if you're like, I'm not sure where the email is, you should have an email, but you'll get another one. And we are asking for you to bring between 5 and 8 members of your coalition with a suggestion that because we'll be focusing on sustainability, that we would love for you to bring folks key in your coalitions. We all know you have active work groups, some more directly focused on workforce and others, that you bring your lead and your co-lead teams and partners that you know are essential for planning. You'll be joined by those of us on the TA team, including folks that you'll meet today at Aptum Partners, as well as our partners from MyLeap and, of course, BCIC. Anything, Liv, that I missed on the logistical part that you want to chime in with?
I think you hit everything important. Thanks, Sarah. My only, I guess, update would be that I will be sending an email to all the leads tomorrow with the folks who have registered so far for your regions. And so you'll have an insight into who is actually registered versus who you might still be waiting on registrations from.
Thanks, Liv. Very helpful. So we know you may say I forwarded it, but I don't know if they registered. So you'll get that update tomorrow. I'll go to the next slide, then I'm going to open it up for any questions, both on like the who or logistics, any troubleshooting. So I think I'm so impressed. You all are really thinking about sustainability planning, of course, it's important. And so this meeting really is focused on thinking about what sustainability means for this initiative. So what does it mean? We're working on a working definition here. So I just wanted to share if you're thinking about who should I bring with me, or oh gosh, I can't even think about sustainability. I just put 225, payments out the door yesterday. That we wanted to kind of be clear about what the purpose of the meeting is and how we're collectively working on a definition and thinking about sustainability. So, the purpose of the meeting really is to build that shared understanding about what sustainability means. We'll be talking about what components you need to be focused on, both for your sustainability planning deliverable, but just also planning for sustainability of the initiative overall. You'll get a sense, and you'll hear more in a moment, about the national landscape of financing strategies. That's one important tool. And yes, I can absolutely make sure in our follow-up email that we will share these slides with you. So um, you'll have that at your disposal too. And we'll also give you time to work in your teams to begin to apply key tools and frameworks to your local financing landscape and think about that. Of course, if you're like, well, this all seems, this is about planning, this is about learning, this is about thinking about what sustainability may look like. And so I'm going to do something I don't do a lot, which is read aloud a few sentences to you, but the definition is here on the screen. So ECIC, Go ISD, and MyLeap have really been thinking about a definition of sustainability, because we all know we might have something in our minds like sustainability has to be X, Y, or Z. And I think we're thinking about, as we convene, a broader definition that is responsive to regional context. So sustainability, as our working definition now, is the ability to continue advancing the outcomes that the wage work was meant to achieve. So a stable, fairly compensated early childhood workforce. This might not necessarily mean the wage supplement in its current form. If you're thinking about that and you're headed towards that, great. It could mean something else as well. It also means preserving the relationships, infrastructure, and momentum that we've all built by implementing the wage initiative so that the impact of it endures, even if the funding mechanism, partners, or strategy change and evolve to be different. So I want to see everyone, so I'm going to stop sharing, but I will put that in the chat because you may not have fully digested that. So that will be the focus of August, is really digging into that definition, what that means for um, your region, your coalition, the regions you work with, but want to pause and see if you have logistical questions of who should we bring questions or thoughts about what you really um, need from the meeting or from us now to be able to fully participate. Go ahead, Shani.
I think this is what you're asking for to happen at this time. The way I've been thinking about this is that I need a lit review. I mean, and it's interesting that you had just mentioned that that it could look like what it looks like now, or but it could look like other things. But I think from our standpoint, I could AI this to death, and I certainly have already done that. But um, but I think that I'm looking from you all is the comparatively what have we seen in initiatives like these, and what kind of is the opportunity there, and so to me that's a lit review, and if I don't have that, I can't really plan. So I'm hoping that that's what you guys are gonna give to us sooner, not later.
Yes, yeah, more to come on the financing sort of case study in literal seconds, but that's really helpful feedback to hear too, Shani. Other questions, thoughts, concerns folks have about August or what we'll do together in August in particular? Great. Well, for the sake of time, I'm just gonna move us on, but the chat is open, our emails are open, and the next conversation will also allow you some chance to give us feedback. So I'll pass it to you, Liv, to introduce our new TA partners.
Yeah, if you'll remember back a couple months, ECIC sought proposals from qualified vendors to identify examples of successful municipal financing strategies in order to support sustainability planning for the wage initiative, to develop technical assistance resources for ECIC and for the coalitions, and to facilitate in-person TA during our August convening and also during a half day of TA following the September's Childcare Champions event. So we're very happy to share that Afton Partners was awarded this contract, and we're really excited about the great resources that they're working on, and the one-on-one and the group TA that's planned during the remainder of this fiscal year. Some of their deliverables that they're working on will include a landscape analysis of municipal financing strategies across the country, as well as best practices and enabling conditions that allowed those to work. So hopefully that will provide a bit of a landscape for you, Shanae, like you mentioned. This will also be a searchable database of financial strategies, so you're able to kind of go through an Excel-based spreadsheet with these different strategies and be able to filter into strategies that might be useful for your context. They will also be working on case studies of a select number of these strategies and drawing out implementation lessons that were learned from each of them. And then also they're developing some custom TA tools for the wage initiative context, including a local financing map, a readiness and asset assessment, and a strategic roadmap. And like I mentioned, they will be providing in-person sharing of these results and TA at the August meeting, and then also the half day of TA following the Child Care Champions event in September. And they'll also be available for one-on-one consultations with regions in September, which will occur during our already scheduled progress meetings in September. So it's not going to be an additional meeting on your calendars, but we'll leverage that time that we already have booked. Um, and I'm sure there's a lot more I could say about the work they're doing, but I'll hand it over to Kayla and Marissa from the Afton team to introduce themselves. And they also have a few questions that they'd like to bring to the groups as they're gathering some more context about the initiative.
Thank you, Liv and Sarah, for that incredible introduction. We are really excited to be supporting the ECIC team and you all in thinking about sustainability and thinking about sustainability broadly, right? So how can these different strategies be brought to bear, not only for the wage initiative, but for anything you might want to do in your coalition? What are the opportunities available at the local level that you can leverage? So we've been scouring the country looking for opportunities. And Janae, it's very exciting to know that someone will read it. So thank you in advance for being a reader and bring this to you all. So I'm Keela. My background, I worked for a decade in state government, so I come really from that kind of government administration perspective, and I know how hard it is to implement and be forward thinking at the same time. And so just really appreciate the efforts that you are all doing to make this initiative and everything at the coalition level happen. And so our intention with the tools that we're going to create, the resources that we're going to create, and the facilitation that we're going to provide is to try to make it just as accessible and straightforward as possible. And that's why I wanted to come to you today to really just ask for your feedback on how can we make the August in-person meeting as useful to you as possible as you think about sustainability. So that is our goal with this conversation today, and just really welcome your honest feedback and thoughts and, really, it can be your first reaction, and that's going to help shape how we put together the agenda in August. So I'm going to turn over to my colleague Marissa to introduce herself and facilitate our conversation.
Thanks, Kayla. Hi, everyone. My name is Marissa Ortiz. I am a senior associate on the Afton team. It's really nice to be here with you all today and get to know you. We've been doing some work in the background up to now, and just getting to see faces is an exciting part of this work. And I come to this work having previously been an early childhood teacher myself. I was a toddler teacher for 4 years. Very much would have appreciated the kinds of work that you all are doing for our teachers. Myself and just excited to be on the side of this to support initiatives like this. Um, yeah, and as Kayla said, what we want to do today with you all is just spend a few minutes really getting to understand what kinds of things would be most helpful for you, so that when we come into August, we're really spending our time in ways that feel useful and productive and helpful to the coalitions and the many people who are going to be participating in these conversations. And so with all of that said, we just wanted to start with a couple of questions for you all, and hopefully this will be helpful. And I'm going to go ahead and put the first question we have in the chat. But as we look towards this August convening, we really want to spend some time highlighting and hearing from RCCCs and being able to have some shared learning around what's worked well for you and where the challenges have been. And so our first question is around what successes towards sustainability you've had in your RCCC that you might want to share with others, and also what things you're hoping to learn from other coalitions that might be helpful as you continue your sustainability work. I'll put that in chat and just open it up. Feel free to come off mute or raise your hand. And I know we got started today with some like successes and highlights. So I know that there are already some out there to share. So if there's anything you'd want to build on, or if you've heard, if you've heard another region might be trying something out that you're interested in hearing more about. Janie, feel free to share.
Sure. I think I'd like to know where everyone is in terms of their development of sustainability plans. We're kind of at a point where feel like we've reached a little bit of a wall. And so I'm just curious how far people have gotten, what kind of strategies they've laid out at this point. Share what things everybody's struggling with. That would be insightful.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Can you say a bit more about like you said you're feeling like you're reaching a wall. Um,
Yeah, I mean, we have I think a few questions around how much the state will be involved, not only in terms of funding, but also sustainability efforts
mhm.
versus how much each region will be doing on their own, as well as we're still in the middle of the project, so we don't really have data to show impact to use for fundraising efforts. And so that's a conundrum as well.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that's really helpful context, I think, especially as we learn if other RCCCs have been successful in or how they're thinking about using data information to support
Right.
STEAM. Yeah. And then I'm seeing a message from Anna in the chat. Need stronger, more reliable EEWI verification systems and are working towards that. Would love to hear about other verification systems. Anything specific in terms of like fundraising or sustainability that comes to mind is what's been shared. Is that resonating with others, or is there anything you'd add?
I'd be curious to know what other successes or like working systems are working for regions in terms of sustainability from the administrative side. Um, I think a lot of us have recognized that the work that goes into the wage initiative it's a heavier lift than I think anybody expected. Um, and I know my team is like, all right, August 2027, like when we get those last, like we want it to continue. And there's kind of this sense of like, ooh, we're sprinting a marathon. And I think that's a piece of sustainability for this type of work that I would also love to see addressed is like, how do we make this sustainable for those of us in the background? Because we can't continue sprinting marathons or building planes while we fly them, because that's not sustainable for us either.
That's a great point. I think something that will definitely play into the planning for sustainability beyond just the financing, but like the operational capacity to actually implement these things. Any other?
Well, and just to kind of build up on, oops,
No, no, go
yeah,
ahead.
just
Thank
to build
you.
up on that. Um, I was, Emily Laidlaw sent out a communications yesterday, I think it was, and it was really powerful around the wins for the budget. And what was interesting in there was what she said about wage benefits and I guess I want to say maybe apprenticeships were in there too, but whatever the efforts were around there, and she said that there was $21 million in the budget. So I think we need clarification around that. From what I understood, these dollars that were from the wage initiative came from PDG. I don't know if there was any other efforts or successes at the federal level. I mean, we kind of need to know the landscape, and we can't fundraise out here. Plus, I think we're in a conundrum. I'm going to use Janie's word, in that um, we're all in organizations that have to raise money, and so, and now you're asking us to raise money or sustain this. And so, what does that look like braided into what our own needs are, given the climate of federal declines and those kinds of things? So, I was so glad to see that Michigan stood up well, and super excited. Certainly did a bit of work ourselves to try to contribute to that. But I mean, the climate is real. And so just would like to hear some clarification on where is the state right now.
Thank you. And it sounds like similar questions to what's on Janie's mind. So
I also want, I'm sorry. Um, so there are several of us that are also part of the resource centers, right? And a lot of the work that we have been doing for the wage sustainability, right, is kind of in kind on our individual for us. And so as we look at the RFP coming out for resource center work and all of that, and budgets having been cut pretty much across the board. I wonder too about the expectation of time that those of us that are supporting this are going to be able to give. And I ask that because I know that our RCCC literally has not put any money towards the wage initiative. It has come literally, Sarah and I have worked really hard to put together a budget that supports providers, in all honesty, more than it supports both of us. And so as we look at questions and how things are going to roll out, I think it's important to keep that also in the forefront somewhere that should we get the rebid on the resource center work? I'm already looking at a deficit, a quite a large deficit, and I'm the person that puts the effort into this work. And so, where's the balance, right? And although this is important, so is the 17 other projects that I'm doing. So I just I don't want to be Debbie Downer or anything like that. I just think that, we too are going to need a little additional support, and I'm not exactly sure what that looks like, but I put it in the space because it is a reality for those of us that are also engaged in resource center work.
yeah, thank you for sharing that and for bringing that to the forefront. Especially like this is really helpful context, especially as we think about the different pressures that you're facing in sort of the climate and thinking about sustainability in the long term. Okay. Um, Thank you all for sharing a bit more about that. One of the things, aside from learning from you all and sharing learnings from each other, is this piece of about raising examples that have come across from different from the research that we've done across the country. And so I know there's a request for lit review. One of the things that we've been working on is doing all this research and coming up with examples that we think might be particularly helpful for you all. And so just quickly, this is just our initial thinking so far, so more work to be done here, but just quickly wanted to share a couple of or a few case studies that examples that are coming to mind for us that we think might be good case studies to share with you when you meet in when we all meet together in August. And so just a brief, very brief conversation here, but wanted to share these case studies and some highlights from there and get a sense from you all if there's anything particularly that stands out as like, yes, this is something I really want to learn and hear more about. And so I'm gonna quickly give like a few word highlight of each of these case studies, and then would love to hear from you all if there's anything that particularly excites you or that you want to learn more about in August. And so um, we do want to highlight a Michigan example, and I'm sure some of these will be more familiar for you all. So thinking about Kalamazoo and Kent County, both of which are millages. We know Kalamazoo is currently underway and working through this, and Kent has approved millages a couple of times. We'll get into that too much since I'm assuming those are more familiar for you all. Um, we have an example from Salem, Massachusetts, where they created a community benefits agreement with the wind industry, and we're able to get some dedicated funds for preschool. Um, we have an example from Midland, Texas, which is a more rural area, and they have three philanthropic partners there have come together to think about childcare and stabilizing current providers, and that includes funding for workforce compensation as well as facilities and business coaching. Um, we've found an example from Hamilton County, Iowa, which has done sort of a local early childhood match where county public dollars were used to create a local fund where employers can invest money and receive a tax break, and that was focused specifically on using those funds to increase provider wages. We have an example from Cook County, Minnesota, where they repurposed a local balance in their a local fund balance to support childcare wages, providing $6 an hour wage supplements. And then that was so successful that they made that into a recurring budget line. We have an example from the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians who are using their local gaming revenue from casinos to fund education and healthcare facilities. And then this last one's a little bit different. It's a Michigan example, but it's not one that has been used for childcare yet, but a potential promising opportunity as we're labeling it, where they have some public utility surplus and they're using that to go back in their community. And so thinking through what it might look like to do to use funds that may not traditionally have been used for childcare, but um, could be leveraged for that reason. So I know this is quick, and probably a lot of new things for you all, but as you take a look at this, curious if we are trying to narrow the list a little bit for case studies. So curious if there are examples that specifically speak to you or that you're interested in learning more about. Deb, or if you're speaking, you're on mute. Okay, not with us. No worries. Um, yeah, feel free to share. I know this is a lot to put in front of you without a lot of detail yet. But curious if any of these feel more applicable to the regions you're in. If there's more interest in like those philanthropic approaches or are there specific kinds of strategies that speak to you?
I think for a lot of the regions that we're working with, the two rural context
Mhm.
ones, particularly because they're leveraging existing dollars, and it's a concern from a lot of the municipal folks we've talked to that they're like, we don't have enough, we cannot get more money.
Mhm.
Um, I think those types of strategies will speak the most to folks in our regions.
That's helpful. So I'm hearing like using funding that already exists and thinking about how to repurpose or message around getting that into the childcare space. Does that resonate with others on the call as well, or are there regions who are more interested in different kinds of strategies? And this is not like a be all end all. If there's anything else that comes to mind that's like, I really want to learn about this. I've heard about this example, or I've seen another state or municipality do this. Feel free to share as well.
I would only make this comment is that so I'm from Kent, and I worked initially on the millage, and I've been part of the child care child care task force that the county just pulled together, and I was part of those, presentations to the commission when it was time up for renewal. And so we were asking for point 4, I think it was. Um, and so I think villages are really great opportunities. I think I like what Kalamazoo has been able to do now because they you can see a little bit more clearly than when we first started ours. We were in our 7th year. And so the dollars and the infrastructure that we bought to support early childhood was based on gaps that were in the system, um, and trying to fill those gaps. And compensation wasn't on the radar at that time. And so where we sit right now is that after the commission has sat and made some recommendations, they're putting out a publication here shortly. Um, is that the um, we're probably going to have to wait till another 3 years, is what the child care task force ended up saying, before we could revisit that and additional meals. I think also the those kinds of structures are pretty political, so there were a lot of opposition around tax increases, and so
Mhm.
that's why we were not able to get a tax increase in the renewal, and so we're gonna so you just have to wait to see what you can do here. But I think overall that a millage is a way to go, particularly in a new climate where you understand things differently and where you need money. That if your um, locale can pull that off and you've got champions, and we had both a, a, a community champion that was a business person and a philanthropic champion that kind of led the charge that you can this is really viable, and then the money's there. And if you're growing at all, the money will increase. So very viable.
Yeah, thank you for adding some of your own experience here, and I think that that really speaks to the kinds of things that we're going to be talking about. Like you're talking about champions. One of the things that we're bringing to the conversation is thinking about what conditions made these examples successful, and so I think you're already starting to raise those. And when we bring this in August, it's not just going to be like this is the outcome, but also what was the process in getting there, what conditions make like help to create the readiness to move these things forward. So I think definitely would like to highlight a millage or an example of like one of the ones that we have here on the screen, and then think about like stepping back and thinking about what's needed to move that forward and what that might look like in different kinds of communities.
The other thing, though, I just would like to say is that, we've been behind Think Babies for some time. It had an agenda. I think it still has an agenda for putting forth some big dollars across the state. And I think we have to ask that question here, that it's not local, but what happens at the state level to bring those dollars in? Where are we, and what needs to happen? That effort, which has 3,000 members, hasn't been able to pull that off yet. So
Hmm.
I think you should add that to your case studies of Michigan at the state level, and what wins we have and what wins do we need. I think would be a powerful look
Yeah,
at.
thank you. Thank you for raising that. And I think we've also seen examples of other states that have supported, like what can states do to help enable municipalities to be successful in these kinds of initiatives. Okay, and then I'm seeing in the chat also an additional example to look into, which is Eagle County, Colorado, from a lodging tax increase. Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. We'll definitely look into it and can add to our list of strategies and database in the database. Think about how to incorporate that here. Any final comments before I think we are, for time's sake, I think we'll wrap up shortly, but any other final comments here? Thanks all for your helpful feedback. I think we have one final comment, but I don't want to take, or one final question, but I don't want to take up too much time. So, okay. Sarah, looked like you were saying we're good. Okay. So just a final question around what other kinds of support would be most useful to you in advancing your sustainability goals and other resources or tools. And I know Liv mentioned that we'll be putting together some tools for TA in September, August and September that will be shared with you all, and we'll work on those during the convening as well. We've heard the lit review and hopefully that the landscape analysis and strategies are helping to respond to that. But if there's anything else that would be helpful to you, um, feel free to share in chat or come off mute and let us know. All right. Well, I think if there's no more thoughts, we'll hand it back over, but really appreciate the feedback that you've given and the context to help us prepare for August, and hopefully bring you all a session that responds to these questions and is helpful as you continue to think about sustainability. And if anything else comes to mind, feel free to add it in chat today or reach out separately and share any thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marissa and Kayla. And so glad you got to meet and hear from folks. Before I move us on, I did want to give one more chance. Is there anything related to sustainability, particularly in the financing part of the work, but at all that you're still that has come up for you in this meeting of like, oh, I hope we cover X, or I'm wondering about Y? One more chance during this office hours to share that. Please go ahead, Janae.
The other thing that I have been thinking about is like what is the narrative that works? Like from what I understand from Kalamazoo Millage, is that when they poll different narratives and different messaging, that messaging around compensation was hard for people to get their head around. That it didn't actually poll very well at all. And so I think we have to know what messaging works for a specific ask around compensation. How do people understand compensation? Where has there been precedence for wage supplements? And doing some research myself, as we put together the proposal, we were starting to see some more emerge than what I thought. But initially, we
Yeah.
didn't know how to even frame that, And I still don't think overall that I think we can all benefit from knowing what messaging and narratives will work um, for that specific of an ask. Yeah, I think that if we have to walk away with that if you guys are going to be useful to us.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anything, always appreciate it. Anything else on folks' minds? Again, the offer is always open to email us, to put it in the chat. If it comes to you later, if I hope we do this or that, we're here. But I want to give you one last chance before we get to our last topic or open it up for other types of questions. All right. Well, a few more things before we close. One, after our last office hours, the question had come up around what else matters, which I think is so related to as you think about sustainability, and that definition really around how do we keep moving the needle on this issue of total compensation and workforce retention, for folks. So I wanted to flag that after our last meeting, we did send out and hearing your feedback about like, hey, could you send us things in a more timely manner when something's on our mind? We want to know. And so we shared this resource around um, various, what do we know matters towards retaining the workforce? What are some ways if we're doing surveys or outreach, what are some questions we could ask? And what are some ways besides surveys maybe that we could ask folks? So I wanted to just flag this resource for you. And I also wanted to open it up to see if there is anything that would have been more helpful that we could add, that we could subtract, a different way that you want information, anyone want to share anything you're doing. We know that data collection and hey, is this working? What's it doing for folks? Why are we still seeing turnover? Would love if folks want to share. Are you seeing the same amount of turnover you were at the very beginning of the program? Are you kind of averaging with the same replacement rate? Just really opening it up on this issue of turnover, but I don't want to shy away from feedback on the resource itself or other ways that we could be more helpful to you. With that, I'll just let you all unmute and chime in or put something in the chat. I'm pushing myself on leaving the silence, going, but I have my very minor limits. What I would say, as I'm even reminding myself who wrote this resource, is thinking about sustainability. I really encourage you to look at this if you feel less familiar with things, because even if you to your questions before of what data do we have, I think it's also important as you've been leading this initiative, I challenge you to take 5 minutes of your own to reflect on like what have I noticed um in my region that maybe I didn't know before. Maybe I reflected when I ran a wage initiative, wow, some employers are really good at retention and others this didn't seem to change a thing. What might be the differences that I know about those people, and try to start thinking about your own hypotheses. I think it's important to sustainability to think like, okay, if we have to get real about what we're going to do next or what we can do, maybe there is some kernel that you've learned here about things that we're not touching right now, um, in retention, big or small, that you could use as a spark to think about sustainability planning. Um, Also think there are some great questions in here that, this does not have to be a sample size of 1 million. You might think about asking a few folks or thinking, what do you know about these questions already? I think this overall question about turnover will be really helpful to thinking about um, sustainability and what matters in your region. Also would love for you to read it and say, hey, give me more TA. I want more help. We're here for that too. So please reach out. In our last few minutes, though, any other thoughts? I want to, point your question about verification of payments received. I think that's a sort of now question. Happy for folks to share. But also we will give you some information that we have or that we can collect on that question as well. Other things that have been coming up for you that you want to make sure we do something about, or you want to ask your peers about right now? Okay, I'm not hearing any, so I'll stay on. See you, folks. Thank you. Yes, thanks, Sarah. Yeah, there's some useful questions. Take a minute to look through the resource. We'll send this out as a follow-up. Again, there is no limit to the feedback we would love about how we can be supportive to you. We've seen an uptick in emails thinking about sustainability, but we're open for any question anytime. Anytime you hit a wall, let us know. But with that, anything else folks want to add before we end? Awesome. Hearing none, I'm gonna let's end 2 minutes early. That's a win for me. Thank you, Sinead. Appreciate it. Thanks always for the questions. We're here. We'll stick around for a minute if you want to stay on, but otherwise, happy Tuesday. See you soon. Look for an email about event, who's registered, who needs to register, all of that, and let us know if you have questions. Thanks, everybody. See you later.